My roommate cut my internet during the $50,000 finals. Then I found why he did that. The crosshair was perfectly aligned with the pixelated head of the enemy Jett. My heart wasn't beating, it was vibrating, a hummingbird trapped in a cage of bone. I could feel the sweat pooling under the leather of my headset, slick and cold against my temples. This was it. Map 3. Overtime. Match point. $50,000. That number screamed in the back of my skull. $50,000 meant I could pay off my student loans. It meant I could move out of this roach-infested apartment. It meant I wasn't just a guy playing games in his bedroom, I was a professional. My teammate, Void, called out over Discord, his voice cracking with tension. One mid. He's planting. Swing now, swing now. I swung. My finger tightened on the mouse button. The enemy was exposed. It was an easy shot. A free kill. The winning kill. Click. Nothing happened. The enemy didn't die. He didn't move. He just froze in place, running in a static animation loop against a wall. My screen froze. The audio loop stuttered, a machine gun sound of a single frame repeating over and over again. Then, the world went black. Not just the game. My monitors. My ring light. The hum of the PC tower. The fan in the window. The entire room plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. No, I whispered. It was a sound that didn't even make it past my lips. I ripped the headset off, throwing it onto the desk. I scrambled in the dark, my shins smashing against the metal leg of the table, pain shooting up my leg, but I didn't care. I felt for the power strip. I flicked the switch. Nothing. No. I screamed, the sound tearing at my throat. Not now. Please not now. I fumbled for my phone, the flashlight beam cutting through the gloom like a frantic searchlight. I ran out of my bedroom into the hallway. Silence. The apartment was dead silent. No refrigerator hum. No buzzing from the AC unit. I ran to the living room window and ripped the blinds open. The streetlights were on. The bodega across the street was blazing with neon signs. The apartment building opposite us had lights in every window. It wasn't a blackout. It wasn't the grid. It was just us. I stood there, panting, the adrenaline from the game curdling into a sick, heavy nausea. My hands were shaking so hard the flashlight beam was dancing on the wall. I had disconnected. By the time I got power back, the match would be over. The forfeit rule was strict. If a player disconnects in the finals and doesn't return within 3 minutes, the round is conceded. I had lost. Yo, dude. The voice came from the other bedroom. A door creaked open. Kyle walked out. He was rubbing his eyes, wearing his boxers, holding a half-empty water bottle. He squinted into my flashlight beam. Did the power go out? He asked, letting out a long, exaggerated yawn. I was watching a movie and everything just died. I shined the light in his face. He flinched. The neighborhood has power, Kyle, I said, my voice sounding like gravel grinding in a blender. Just our unit. That's weird, he muttered, taking a sip of water. Maybe we blew a fuse. You run a lot of equipment in there, man. Probably overloaded the circuit. I've been running the same equipment for 2 years, I snapped. I didn't plug anything new in. Well, go check the breaker, he shrugged. I'm going back to bed. Let me know when the Wi-Fi is back. I was downloading something. He turned around and closed his door. I stared at the wood grain of his door for a second. Something felt off. Kyle was a night owl. He never went to bed before 3 a.m. It was 11 p.m. And he wasn't angry. Kyle gets angry when the internet dips for a second because it interrupts his TikTok scrolling. Tonight? He was calm. Too calm. I walked to the utility closet in the kitchen. I opened the gray metal panel of the breaker box. I shined the light on the switches. Usually, when a breaker trips because of an overload, the switch creates a pop sound and lands in the middle, a spongy, halfway position between on and off. You have to push it all the way off to reset it. The main breaker for the apartment wasn't in the middle. It was firmly, decisively flipped to the off position. Someone hadn't overloaded the circuit. Someone had grabbed the heavy plastic handle and yanked it down with force. I stood there, staring at that black switch. The heat started rising in my neck, a prickling sensation that spread across my scalp. My vision went blurry with rage. I reached out and flipped it back on. Thunk. The lights in the kitchen flickered to life. The fridge groaned as the compressor kicked in. I didn't go back to my room. I went to the router. It sat on the shelf in the hallway, blinking its little orange lights as it tried to reconnect to the modem. I pulled it off the shelf and turned it around. The Ethernet cable that ran to my room, the blue one I had painstakingly stapled along the baseboards to ensure I had zero lag, was loose. It wasn't clicked in. It was dangling halfway out of the port. You have to press a plastic tab to remove an Ethernet cable. They don't just fall out. I pushed it back in until it clicked. I walked back to my room. My PC was rebooting. I opened Discord on my phone. The messages were flooding in. Void, bro. Void, hello. Admin, Team Alpha disconnect. 3-minute timer started. Admin, timer expired. Forfeit issued for map 3. Void, we lost. Are you kidding me right now? Void, you just cost us everything. I sat down in my gaming chair. The $50,000 was gone. The sponsorship deal we had lined up if we won. Gone. I looked at the wall shared with Kyle's room. Overloaded the circuit, I whispered to myself. I didn't confront him yet. Confronting him without proof would just be a shouting match. He'd deny it. He'd say I was crazy. He'd say I bumped the cable or the breaker was faulty. I needed to know why. Kyle wasn't a malicious guy, usually. He was lazy, sure. He was late on rent sometimes. But to sabotage my career? To destroy the biggest moment of my life? That required motivation. I waited. I sat in the dark of my room, listening. At about 1 a.m., I heard Kyle's door open. I heard him shuffle to the bathroom, flush the toilet, and then the fridge door opened and closed. Then, silence. I waited another hour to be sure he was asleep. I crept out of my room. The floorboards in the hallway creaked, and I froze, holding my breath. I listened for the rustle of sheets. Nothing. I walked into the living room. Kyle had left his iPad on the coffee table. He always did. He used it to watch streams while he ate. I picked it up. It was warm. He had been using it recently. I pressed the home button. Enter passcode. I knew his passcode. It was 1-2-3-4-5-6. The guy was not a security genius. I punched it in. The screen unlocked. It opened to the last used app. It wasn't Netflix. It wasn't YouTube. It was a sports betting app. One of those offshore crypto sites that sponsors half the streamers on Twitch. My stomach turned over. The screen was displaying a live bet slip. Event, Apex Legends Global Series, Challenger Circuit Finals. Match, Team Alpha, my team, versus Team Vulture. Wager, Team Vulture to win map 3. Odds, plus 450, underdog. Stake, $1,100. Status, 1. Payout, $4,950. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. He had bet against me. He knew I was the IGL, the in-game leader. He knew if I went down, the team fell apart. He knew exactly when the match started because he lived with me. I scrolled through his transaction history. Deposit, $1,100, credit card ending in 4492. Date, yesterday, 8:45 p.m. He had emptied his bank account to make this bet. He had bet everything he had on my failure. And then, to ensure his investment paid off, he walked 5 feet to the breaker box and flipped the switch. He cost me $50,000 so he could win 5. I felt a coldness settle over me. It wasn't the hot rage from before. This was something different. This was the absolute, final death of a friendship. It was a funeral in my chest. I took screenshots. I sent them to my phone. I took a video of the iPad screen, scrolling through the bet slip, the time stamp, and the account name, KyleG_99. I put the iPad back on the table. I didn't sleep. I went back to my room, packed my valuable gear into my car, just in case things got violent, and waited for the sun. 7 a.m. I heard his alarm go off. I heard the cheerful sound of him stretching. He walked out into the kitchen, humming. Humming. He started making coffee. I walked out. I was dressed. I was wearing my boots. Morning, champ, Kyle said, not looking up from the coffee pot. Internet come back on. Yeah, I said. It did. That's good. Tough break on the game, man. I heard you shouting. You lose. We lost by default, I said. Forfeit. Damn, Kyle shook his head, pouring creamer. That sucks. Tech issues are the worst. But hey, there's always next year, right? There is no next year for this roster, Kyle. We just disbanded. Void quit this morning. Oh. Well, you're good. You'll find another team. He took a sip of his coffee. He looked happy. He looked like a man who had just made $5,000. Kyle, I said. Yeah. I pulled my phone out and held it up. I had the screenshot of his betting slip full screened. What is this? Kyle squinted at the phone. He froze. The mug stopped halfway to his mouth. I don't know what that is, he stammered. Is that a website? It's your account, Kyle. KyleG_99 foot. You bet $1,100 on Team Vulture to win map 3. You placed the bet 10 minutes before we started. Dude, I bet on esports all the time, he said, his voice pitching up. He set the mug down. His hand was shaking. I hedge my bets. It's emotional hedging. If you lose, I win some money so we can. I don't know, buy pizza. It's a thing. Emotional hedging. I stepped closer. Is flipping the breaker switch part of the hedge? Is pulling my Ethernet cable part of the strategy? I didn't touch your cable, he shouted, stepping back against the counter. You're crazy. The power went out. The breaker was flipped, Kyle. It doesn't flip itself. You waited until overtime, you walked to the hallway, and you killed the power. You sabotaged me for $5,000. You can't prove that, he spat, his face turning red. You have no proof I touched that box. It's circumstantial. I have the router logs, I lied. I didn't have logs that proved he did it, but he didn't know that. I have the timestamp of the physical disconnect. And I have your betting slip. And I have the police on speed dial. Police? He laughed, but it sounded like a dying animal. For what? Turning off a light switch? Get real. For fraud, I said. Match fixing. Fraud involving a gambling site. And destruction of property. My PC fried a stick of RAM when the power cut. Another lie, but I needed leverage. "You're not calling the cops," he sneered. "We're friends." "We aren't friends," I said. "Friends don't steal 50 grand from each other." I pointed to the door. "Get out." "What?" "Pack a bag. Get out. I want you gone in an hour. If you're not gone, I'm calling the landlord and the police." "I'm on the lease," he yelled. "And you just committed a felony in the apartment," I countered. "I don't think the landlord is going to care about your lease rights when I show him the police report." He stared at me. He saw the look in my eyes. He realized I wasn't bluffing. He stormed past me, slamming his shoulder into mine. "Fine. You're psycho anyway. I'll go to my girl's place." "Leave the key," I said. He threw his key on the floor. He spent the next 40 minutes throwing clothes into trash bags. He didn't look at me. He just cursed under his breath. When he walked out the door, he turned back one last time. "You know," he hissed. "You were going to lose anyway. You choked. I just made sure I got paid for it." He slammed the door. I locked it. Then I engaged the deadbolt. Then I put a chair under the handle. I sat down at my desk. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt hollow. But I wasn't done. I opened my email. I drafted a message to the support team of the betting site. Subject: Report of match fixing/fraudulent betting activity. To whom it may concern. I am a participant in the ALGS tournament held last night. I have evidence that a user on your platform, KyleG_99, physically sabotaged a competitor, myself, to ensure the outcome of a wager. Attached is the police report number. I filed it online 10 minutes ago, the proof of residence showing we live together, the router logs showing the manual disconnect, and the timestamp of his bet. This user has violated your terms of service regarding match manipulation. I hit send. Then, I went to Twitter. I didn't dox him. I didn't post his address. But I posted the story. I posted the screenshot of the bet and the breaker box. The internet does not forgive. Within 3 hours, the post had 40,000 likes. The streamer's blackout was trending. 2 days later, I got an email from the betting site. Dear user. Thank you for your report. After an internal investigation, the account in question has been permanently banned for violation of our integrity policy. All pending withdrawals have been frozen and the winnings have been voided. Kyle didn't get his $5,000. He lost his initial $1,100. He tried to text me a week later. A wall of text. Begging. Crying. Saying he needed that money for his car payments. Saying he was sorry. I didn't reply. I just sent him a screenshot of the account banned email. Then I blocked him. I moved out a month later. I live alone now. I have a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply, battery backup for my PC and my router. If the power goes out, I have 30 minutes of juice. I'm still grinding. I found a new team. We're in the lower bracket, fighting our way up. It's harder this time. The money is tighter. But every time I look at that battery backup under my desk, I'm reminded of the cost of trust. So, tell me. Am I the monster for ruining my roommate's finances and leaving him homeless over a video game, or did he unplug his own life when he flipped that switch?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.